seems like this whole idea of new anger is kind of, to me, part and parcel of just kind of a culture that's bought into a lot of faux sort of emotions, you know, love, false compassion, all these different things. And, you know, I guess my question is kind of how do we pull ourselves back from that? It seems like a lot of this stuff is very institutionalized, and our very leaders who we rely on right and left, they're part of this thing too. They're the ones that are sort of leading us with this type of way of dialoguing with the world. So how do we sort of pull ourselves back from that, if you agree with that sort of idea? And then do you have any examples of individuals who maybe transcend that idea of new anger and engage in such a way that gets people attention, but also is very dignified and controlled and kind of shows that they have some self-mastery and are not going to sort of constantly play into this sort of war that the media tries to engage them in?
Well, one person immediately comes to mind, it would be David Blankenhorn. Seriously.
Do you think, by the way, I know that we don't always agree on the partisan political issues, although sometimes we do. I thought that I think that Obama is such a figure. I think that he, leaving aside whether
oh, you're
or not,
kidding.
No, leaving aside whether or not we agree or disagree with his policy proposals, I think he's actually, to me, maybe I'm just a sucker, you know, but maybe I consider himself to demonstrate a real mastery of, you know, what was this, no drama Obama?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Everything is cool as a cucumber, rational. He gets criticized for being overly intellectual, right? But he doesn't fly off. Anyway, to me, as an example, and I think he exhibits a mature character structure that doesn't engage in that sort of shouting and maybe, anyway.
I don't want to lose this gentleman's question,
Sorry.
but let me take that up. President Obama is low affect. That is, we seldom hear from him anything that looks like it's going to break through his cool one way or the other. But seldom is not never. And when we do hear him break the cool, we get things like, they bring a knife, we bring a gun. I don't want to quell anger. I think people are right to be angry. I'm angry. Hit back twice as hard. We talk to these folks, he's referring to the business sector, to know whose ass to kick. Republican victory would mean hand-to-hand combat. Punish your enemies. I'm itching for a fight. Now,
He said those things?
he said,
Or just in private conversation?
those are each excerpts from public speeches that he's given.
All right.
So, I mean, yes, he models a kind of emotional self-control, and he's by no means someone who I would pick out as an exemplar of new anger. But he's in the culture too,
Yeah.
and he resorts to it when it suits his convenience.
I sidetracked you from
But
what the guy
now
was
you have to
really
remind
asking.
me what the question was.
Pete, and forgive me, and his mother was an anthropologist.
Sorry, who was the questioner? You wanted to, it was a kind of a, say again,
Yeah.
just remind
You
people.
touched on it. Just, you know, who individuals that live above that sort of new anger and the kind of faux emotions that we sort of, it's part of our cultural institutions, and then how do we get beyond that if that is so entrenched in kind of how we live
yes,
and
yes.
engage?
I do want to go back to that. You know, just as I decline to name someone who I think exemplifies new anger, I don't think I want to name people who are the embodiments of virtues in the society, and partly that's because I think we're all tainted by it.
Yes.
This is not a matter of choosing heroes and villains. It's a matter of recognizing that this is a cultural phenomenon. And as soon as I start sort of pinning it on individuals,
We're all here.
Yeah.
We're all living in this culture, affected by it.
but the other part of your question, I think, concerns us very much, which is how do you deinstitutionalize something that has become institutionalized? Clearly,
Yeah, answer that
radio
question.
and television and the mass media, everyday life has got this wrapped into it so deeply. How do you get it back out again? Well, deinstitutionalization is a really hard process. Institutions are, by their nature, things which perpetuate themselves and try to take a pattern and make it permanent.
They establish rules.
They establish rules,
Yes.
and the way in which you change an institution is frequently by building a counter-institution that does things in a way that people find attractive. But to delegitimate an institution requires having models of an alternative. This kind of conversation we're having here is one such model. It's not going to change the culture overnight, but you begin to change a culture by providing salient examples of a better way to do things.
We did start this thing as a way to react against the polarization, so. What do you think about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
What do you
After
think
you.
about the idea, what do you think about the idea of people who get invited on shows where it's all about screaming to decline the invitation to appear on the show and then to say that they're, just to tell people, not be ostentatious about it, but just say, I don't want to be on that show. I just don't want to do that anymore. But I mean, prominent people who would have to take a hit in terms of book sales and so forth, but they would do that and kind of almost see, you know, there's the legitimate programs that don't engage in this, but we're just not going to do these other shows. You could just pick out, you know, in other words, stigma, reapplication of stigma to selected programs.
I think it's a great idea. Where do we sign up?
Yeah.